wasn't fighting, bro, I'd be in jail. Like, it was not like to have, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I truly have a deep down urge of community. Like, I can't, it doesn't go away. Like, I just, like, I don't know what it is, man. Like I don't go to school. I'm up till 3 a.m. And I couldn't stay awake in school. Like, so, like, I remember I was like in second grade, and I kept falling asleep at my desk, and my teacher took my desk away from me, and she made me like stand up. Dude, I remember like laying in bed. Like, I remember I stopped believing in God, man. Like I had it's crazy shit. Crazy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that? Yeah, I'm sorry, bud.
The clips that you just watched were from Theo Von's this past weekend show. If you don't know who Theo Von is, he's a comedian. He has a couple different podcasts. And in this show, he had Sean Strickland, who is the current middleweight champion in the UFC. And in this podcast, we saw where Sean Strickland was talking about his childhood and the traumatic childhood that he had and the things that he had to go through. And those being some of the reasons as to why he doesn't believe in God and having to experience all those things. In this video, I'm not going to be tackling the problem of evil as far as going through the different theodicies like Alvin Plantinga's free will theodicy or John Hicks' soul building theodicy, though I do agree with them and I believe they are logical. That's not what I'm going to be talking about in this video. As you saw from the title of this video, I'm going to be talking about what Sean Strickland needs. And the thing that Sean Strickland needs is to give his life to Christ. And until he does so, he won't be fulfilled. He will always have that rage inside of him. From those clips that you saw and other ones is where he talks about that hatred that he has and how the burden that he is carrying it, because that's what he's doing. All that hatred, all the anger, he's carrying it and it won't go away. It won't be lifted. And that's because he has nowhere to take it. Because in his view, where there is no God, where do you go to? There's nowhere where you can lay those burdens on. And so he will always be walking with this hatred and this burden in his life. And so until Sean is able to lay those burdens on Christ, he will walk around with them and it will just build up till it'll destroy him, because that's where he's going. He's in this path of destruction to where it's gonna lead to his demise. And I know what you're probably thinking. Well, Raphael, it's really easy for you to say that because I'm sure you've never had to go through anything that he has. It's easy for you as a Christian to say that because I doubt you've gone through any of the things that he has. But if you had gone through it, I'm sure you would be in the same position. And well, the truth of the matter is that I have gone through those exact same things that he talked about. One of the reasons why I even started watching the show was because I saw a clip on the internet where Sean was talking about how going through, school and being tired and sleeping and the teachers taking his desk away to punish him for him sleeping because of him having to stay up, trying to protect his mom or his dad being drunk and beating his mom and things like that. That was me. One of the reasons I watched it is because I related to that, because I remember that's exactly what I went through. I know within my family, that is what I went through. I had to go through, going to school tired because my father was drunk and he was on drugs, and we either had to go to somebody else's house so we could avoid the whole fight scene. Or I remember having in third and fourth grade staying out in the park till 11 o'clock and not coming home because I knew what was going to be happening when I went home. And so then the next day I was tired. I remember when the SWAT came into my house and took me and my brother out of the house because my father was basically, my mother had gotten away and my father was just waiting there to get picked up. And so I remember being picked up by the SWAT team as they came in through our door, and pulling us out, and then, helicopters and everything. So I've gone through those same experiences. And, I'm not here to say like, oh, my life was worse than his and his is worse than mine. I'm not here to say that. But all I'm saying all that is because I know the emotions that he went through, because I had those same feelings. And that's why until he gives his life to Christ and lays down those burdens on him, he's going to keep walking around with that hatred in his heart that will rot at his bones, that will eat at him. And if he keeps going on this path of destruction, it's not going to lead to a good place. And I know, because like I said, I was walking in that same path. I had all that anger built up. I had all that depression. I had all the anxiety. And so I know what he's going through. And so I know until I gave my life to Christ, I was carrying all that. But it wasn't until I gave my life to Christ to where all those burdens were lifted off my shoulders. And I know one of the things that Sean talked about is, going through that is what, made him not believe in God. And I think one of the reasons why he might feel that, and one of the reasons why I felt like that too, was because when you go through something like that, we automatically kind of believe that either, God is real and he just doesn't care, or the fact that he just doesn't exist. But the fact is that when we look at God within Christianity, it's that we can't say that God doesn't care, because that same God that we say doesn't care about our experiences is that same God who came down, lived in the human flesh, right? Died and went through that suffering for why? For us, so that we could have a relationship with him, so that we could be unified with him, and so we didn't have to keep going through this life without him. And so I remember after becoming a Christian, and one of the it's the gospel, right, as far as understanding God's love for us. But the other passage that I read that really homed in on the idea of God's emotions towards us during our suffering and our trials was the passage in John chapter 11, where we see that Lazarus has been dead for 4 days now, and Jesus comes to the town, and he is seeing Lazarus' sisters and the people around weeping, and in Jesus seeing the pain and the agony that they were going through, he weeps. And he weeps at the fact of having to see and know that suffering that we're going through, because that is never what God created us to go through. Yes, he allows it, and he is redeeming us through his plan of salvation. But again, we see God's heart for us of being loving. And so one thing that we can't say is that God is empathetic, that he doesn't care. And so again, when I read that, it broke me, because I was able to see again, if not even more, God's heart for me when I was going through those trials and traumatic events in my childhood, because I had believed the lie that God doesn't care what I was going through, and that's why he wasn't doing anything about the situation. But I know that now that's not the truth. God obviously cares, and he was suffering at the fact of knowing the fact that one of his creations has to go through them. And that is again the reason why he came down and died for us, so that we wouldn't have to go through that. And so I know until I gave my life to Christ and I laid my burdens upon him and was able to forgive my father for all that he had done, is when I felt free, till when all those burdens were taken away from me. And that is exactly what Sean needs. And he's not going to be able to have that until he does give his life to Christ. And I know maybe, I doubt Sean will ever see this, but if you are watching this video and you think that, you know, you're going through some traumatic things, or if you've gone through some rough things in your life, and those are some of the reasons as to why you don't believe in God, because you don't think that God cares. God cares. His heart, that is the reason as to why God came and died for us. It's not because he's empathetic and he's not thinking about you, but on the contrary, it's the sole purpose of why he came, to be able to restore us so that we could be unified with him again. And so if you're carrying anger, if you're carrying those burdens, let them go. Lay them on Jesus, and, you know, learn to forgive, because you will always be carrying that hatred and that burden that you don't need to, and it's not going to lead anywhere other than to a path of destruction. And if there's something that you take away from this video, I would hope that it would be that you know that God loves you and that he cares about you, and that he isn't empathetic to the trials and the suffering that you went through, but rather that is the whole reason and purpose as to why he himself came and suffered for us and died, so that we would never have to go through that, so that we could be redeemed and be with him for eternity in eternal joy. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That's all I have. So God bless.